Well, we're here today to really cover a serious topic for clinical trial sponsors in Australia. We promote to a lot of overseas companies to bring their studies to Australia. There's a lot of really good reasons why companies should be wanting to do that. One of the most important things that companies know when they are coming to Australia is that they need to have a local legal entity in Australia in order to run the clinical trial. They don't have to. Some CROs that can actually act as a local sponsor for overseas companies. It's not something that we like to do. Where we are at Data Farm, we're very conservative. But there are reasons why companies should set up a local legal entity in Australia. It has an impact on R&D tax incentive and things like that. So today we've got a very important person here, which is James Ting of Moore Stephens. Thanks for joining us, James.
Thank you, Luke. Glad to be here.
And basically, James helps companies set up local legal entity in Australia and answers all the hard questions to whether there's their legal or their company governance and things like that. So another important thing was the R&D tax. Where do we start with the conversation, James? There's so many things that probably the companies would want to ask you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So when companies come to see us in Australia, the first thing they ask is, do I need a company or not? What's the reason for this?
Yeah.
And there are different ways you can trade in Australia. The two typical ones are a branch operation or a company. What pushes people down the company road generally is...
What was the option, sorry?
A branch.
A branch
operation,
okay.
Which is a...
So what does that mean?
That's a foreign company that just registers an office here with ASIC.
Right, okay.
Versus a subsidiary. And the major difference is twofold. One is time to market. A branch takes quite a long time to register because the Australian Tax Office and ASIC need to verify you are legitimate. So they want to ensure you're not laundering money here.
Right.
So that takes a while. If you go a subsidiary here, there's still checks and balances, but the time to market from the discussion to being ready to operate your business can be up to 30 days. So very quick to go to market.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard that Australia is like one of the easiest countries in the world to set up a local, set up a company.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. In terms of ease of set up a company, we probably rank in the top 5.
Right.
Very low cost, no paid up capital amount. The minimum capital is $1.
$1, okay.
Can be a single director, single shareholder company. Low administrative requirements and registration with ASIC and the ATO is relatively straightforward.
Okay, so say I've got a prospective sponsor who wants to set up a clinical trial in Australia. What are the steps involved in that company? Say if it's a US company, for example. What's the timeline, and what sort of things do they need to be aware of when they're setting up a company here? I understand you need to have a local director in Australia, Australian local director at least.
That's right. Yes, you need to have someone who's on the ground, a local director. If you
can that be sorry to interrupt, but can that be someone's mate or cousin or something like that?
It can, because a directorship attaches liability. You can ask a trusted friend or family member if they'll do it.
I only asked that because I've met a couple of interesting companies in the past that had a contact here and they went down that road. And I'm not sure how educated that person was in how to run a company. But
both parties are taking risk. Obviously the director here has the ability to bind that company to any agreement or contract.
Right.
And if it's a single director company, you only need one signature, not even a company seal. So that'll be news to some people. In some countries, you need a company seal, which is a stamp.
Yep.
In Australia, the Corporations Act says if you've got more than one director, any two can sign a contract and it's binding. Okay. And if you're a single director, the single director signing binds the company already. So that's the company's liability. From the director's liability, they take on responsibility for signing off tax returns generally, for insolvent trading if it happens, for employee entitlements if they're not paid. So there's a significant amount of liability attached to it. Anyone signing up and agreeing has to be fully aware.
Okay, so say I'm this US company, a hypothetical company, want to come to Australia to run my trial. Data Farm has to prepare an ethics application and start getting things rolling ASAP. How much time does it take for that company to set up a local entity here for them? in Australia?
Okay. So from the start, once we decide yes, we're going ahead,
Yep.
we can be ready in about 2 weeks for you to sign agreements.
Right.
Tax office registrations will be granted. They're applied for upfront, usually granted within 28 days. So a very rapid process. Usually, in my experience, within 30 days, the bank account is already open and you're ready to trade.
Okay, well, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that compares with other countries, but it seems like a pretty fast process. And that includes them setting up local bank accounts and things like
Yes,
that.
yeah.
Okay. So, in terms of what should overseas companies be aware of about Australia and how that process works? I mean, what are the requirements for? We covered local requirements for local directors.
Well, not really. So, I mean, for a local director, for someone to sign up to be a local director, they don't need to be a citizen. So long as they've got...
I thought they did.
No, so long as they've got the right to live here.
Right. Okay.
And that means effectively not be here on a temporary visa like a student, no, not like a tourist visa.
Okay. I thought you needed a local director. That I assumed that meant citizen. But that's
No, it can be a permanent resident, citizen, or even someone here on a temporary visa like a 457,
Okay.
a work visa of some sort.
Alright.
Even a student visa holder can be a local director if required. Obviously, because of the liability that attaches to it,
Yep.
people like that should approach it with caution.
Yeah. I mean, acting as a director for a company, and there's directorship, insurance, and things like that.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose some people that take on that responsibility, they really need to know what's involved.
Yeah, they know what they're signing up for. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So. Tell us a bit about, or at least for the people overseas that are interested in Australia. I mean, the financial year compared to the States, I know that's different.
Yeah, that's right. So we start on 1st July through to 30 June. You might ask, why do we do that? My personal view is around the fact that we have summer.
Right, so we
so
don't like to
summer's
do a
not
tax return.
No, we don't have to do work over
during
summer.
or just before Christmas.
That's
That would be
right.
fun, wouldn't it?
So we have summer in the middle of our financial year. Where the parent company has a different balance date, we can apply to have the same balance date. That's not a problem.
Right, okay. That's interesting. I guess it probably gives the lawyers and the accountants in the States that are affiliated or wherever they're coming from, when their financial year is a calendar year, probably gives them a bit of time to breathe about what they're doing with Australia and then their own stuff locally.
The alignment part makes life easier for accounting departments overseas, because if they need to integrate results for reporting to investors, then we can make the year ends the same. That's quite an easy process.
Yeah, okay, no, that sounds good.
Ease of setup we spoke of. There's no minimum paid up capital requirement, so it will be as low as...
Yeah, I heard some countries you need to have like at least $100,000 in the bank.
Some 50,000
like
US, some 100,000 US. So that makes it quick and simple. Access to R&D credit requires a company here. That's
Right.
compulsory.
Okay.
And that in itself is very attractive. 43.5 cents of the dollar,
Yeah,
uncapped for qualifying expenditures, very attractive.
it's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And beyond that, your compliance requirements in Australia, you must lodge a tax return every year.
Yeah.
And if you're undergoing clinical trials and claiming the R&D credit, you want to lodge tax returns anyway. That's the mechanism through which
That's
you
how
claim.
you deal with it. Yeah.
That's right. Annual accounts need to be audited if you're a subsidiary, unless you apply for relief, being a small company,
Okay.
which we apply for often.
Yeah.
And quarterly GST returns you would lodge, largely because if you're undertaking clinical trials here, most of your transactions will be outgoings.
Yeah.
So you want to claim all your GST credits as quickly as possible.
GST is goods and services tax, right?
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
So it's at 10% in Australia, you pay goods and services tax.
Yeah. So that's the equivalent to what, VAT or something?
VAT in some countries, sales tax in others. The big thing is in Australia, for business-to-business transactions, it's not aimed to be a cost, it's all claimed through the system.
Okay.
So no cost to business.
So if you want to know more, get in touch with James or give me a buzz and I'll put you in touch with James, whichever works, and get a good clear picture on what's involved when you're going to set up your local entity for acting as a local sponsor in Australia. James, thank you very much. I've got a gift for you, but I haven't got it on me right now. But I'll be giving you one of the special
Fantastic.
Data Farm
Thank you.
mugs. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
Go
you.
look at the camera there. Thanks a lot.